So hi, my name is Amelia Vogler, the Executive Director of the Healing Touch Professional Association. And I want to welcome you to our Energy Medicine in the Spotlight member series, where we highlight members of the association who are doing great work in this world. As you know, each of us is unique, and I want to warmly welcome Melinda Chichester, who is a Healing Touch certified practitioner and a certified instructor and an end-of-life doula. She has a distance practice and a local practice in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And Melinda, I want to thank you for coming in and sharing this time with me.
Amelia, thank you so much. It is just such a joy to be here with you. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. So I'd like to take just a minute, just acknowledging that, you know, we all are unique. We go through a curriculum. The curriculum's the same for Healing Touch, and that's part of the beauty of it. And I'd love for you to introduce yourself and your practice through a really specific question.
Okay.
When you think of yourself as a Healing Touch practitioner, what does that mean to you?
That's such a great question, Amelia, because I think about that all the time. And what I have learned over the last few years is that I have become a diagnostician in the field of energy medicine. And what I mean by that is not that I diagnose the physical body, we all have some issues, but what I do is I assess through my hand scan pendulum intuition and find out what congestion or blockages that might be occurring in our energy systems, our energy chakras, the field, and I go as far as diagnosing and assessing the hara. And so by finding the symbology of the congestions, I'm able to bring that information to a client to help them have a greater awareness of where they need to shift patterns for their healing.
That's right. You know, I've always heard you can't change something that you can't see.
Right.
And so it sounds like you're part of the lens, part of I got a picture of one of those like single telescopes to help people kind of focus in on a pattern.
Yep.
And I can affirm what a great gift that's been in my own life and also for the people that I work with. I also know that our practice, it doesn't just stop at the curriculum.
Right.
And so I'm wondering, how has your practice evolved?
Oh my, you know, I'm still evolving. And it was about 4 years ago where I discovered the vocation about being an end-of-life doula. I have been involved in hospice for many years and knew that that was a calling of mine. Mm-hmm. And so my intention was to bring energy medicine to end of life. And as I grew as a practitioner, I have learned to stand with self-confidence and trust and allowing the process. And it's been interesting over the years because I thought my practice was to support those who were actually in transition. And I found that the universe was having a different journey for me. And so I was finding that I couldn't even give my work away. And what was happening, or what is happening, is that I am being asked to step more into the vocation of educating people about the awareness of the end-of-life doula vocation, which is a positive movement right now, mm-hmm. and bringing energy medicine to that end of life. And I have to just trust the process right now. I still continue with a home practice, which I love, but I seem to be asked to kind of step into that role of educating people.
Well, Melinda, and I've known you for, I don't know, 10 years, maybe more than that now. So I can see you as that educator and as that trainer because you've always been so intimately devoted to sharing. And sharing material and sharing your knowledge. And so, what's the word? Generous.
Yeah, and it really is. I love community, Amelia. I met you in community. We were our level fours together, right? And I love supporting community. I was just at a level 4 or 5 supporting them. And I just, I've always looked up to the elders in our community, and I hope one day that I can step into that role as well and support those that are taking this journey, because it is a journey. Each day, each step, each year is so different as we evolve as practitioners, as we clear our own energy, right? We allow so much more to come towards us. And so that's at the moment where I'm at, just trusting the process.
It's beautiful. And, as you're trusted in the process, as I see you opening your arms, eyes, heart to this new work of integrating healing touch in the end of life doula work that you're so called into. I grew up in a funeral home family, and very traditional, very old school, 250 years doing very traditional funerals. And I've never heard of an end-of-life doula. So can you share a little bit about what that is? Who are those doulas?
I am the same way. It was about 3 years ago, as we are in community, when we are in a level, one of our healing touch classes, we do intros, and one of the students happened to mention that she was a birth doula, which most people associate the doula world as a midwife to birthing the babies into this world. And in her story, she shared that she was an end-of-life doula, and it was if every hair on my body stood up, and I was like, that's what my calling is. And so a doula is someone who supports the soul out of this lifetime. So we become the voice of the dying. We also, I like to share as a doula, as an end-of-life doula, we magnify hospice care. My background is hospice. That's where I found healing touch. And what we do, hospice has a checklist that they have to perform when they go in and visit a client. And hospice, I think, is one of the greatest benefits that we have towards end of life. And what the doula does is we amplify, magnify the work that we do. We are able to spend quality time, lengths of time with our clients. We actually can create visuals where the person who is in transition tells us how they want their 11th hour to look, sound, feel, right? We may even create a legacy that they want to leave behind with their loved ones, whether that's a video or a collage or whatever it is that they may want to leave. And so we bring, I love to share what it is that person, how they want to exit this lifetime. And we embrace that, whatever their vision is for their time out of this life.
Yeah, that brings me to tears, Melinda, because we work so hard as clinicians, as practitioners, to hold space for our clients' lives. And then this critical moment where, there's that remembering brought back to life, the remembering of life brought back to life, and then the gift of allowing that to just river on beyond.
Yeah, I agree. And, I've been in hospice for probably over 15 years in different capacities. And I know, when it's a passion, when you have this joy about being around those that are experiencing the transition. And it still surprises me how many people are still afraid and anxious when approaching end of life. And so my joy is to bring that awareness and to create the sacredness that we are not just physical. We have this journey that we are going onward and meeting up with so many of our, lives that have gone on before us. And so my intention is to just bring a greater awareness that we are so much more than the physical, and that we can embrace this transition that we all have to go through one day.
That's right. Well, you know that, and that brings me back into memory of some of that very first things that you said. I help show the patterns. I help give the vision for, you're the vision holder. You can't change what you can't see.
Correct. And with the energy medicine that I bring at end of life, and there are quite a few who aren't able to have conversations with me at end of life. I may be called in at that 11th hour. But when I can find congestion or compromises in the field and apply simple techniques that help to open that flow of energy that allows that person to release what is not serving them for the transition. And it is such an effortless effort. But, we know as energy practitioners, we find congestion in the fields and the systems all the time. But at end of life, it does hold them back from having that peaceful passing sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And so what else would you say a benefit of working with an end-of-life doula? And maybe even more specifically, because you brought in the energy component, you are an energy medicine professional, Healing Touch certified practitioner and certified instructor. What do you think the benefits of having the energy medicine and the end-of-life doula together are?
Well, I have a particular story. There was a gal that I was working with, and I was doing energy treatments with her, and I was able to support and balance her energy system, but there was still something missing for her. And when I was able to talk with her, because doulas ask a lot of questions, and so I'm in the right field because I used to ask a lot of questions when I was a kid, and so I landed in the right vocation for sure. But this particular woman, no matter what I did energetically, there was still this anxiety. And so through our conversation, I had found out that she had had a couple of situations as a young woman where she was locked in a garage or in a car in a garage. I forget the exact detail. And it happened twice. And through our conversation, to her, death was being locked in a garage. And so with our training, we learned how to voice guide and do meditations. And so I was able to not repattern, but to gift this gal a way to see death as something different. And she loved to go to Hawaii. That was her passion. That's what she and her husband did, right? And so when I found this out, I came in one day playing Hawaiian music. I got some Hawaiian tropic suntan lotion. I lathered it up. So I was trying to touch her senses, right? Sound and smell. And so I voice guided her to a beach in Hawaii. We saw the lagoon. I got her in this beautiful boat and got her out into the water. And next thing she goes, "Oh, no, I don't want to be on the water. I want to be watching the water." So I guided her back to the beach with her towel and lounge chair, and was able to give her a different perspective. Really, life is about perspective. And so I was able to give her a different perspective of what that transition can look like for her. And I have to say, she passed within probably 2 to 3 days after I was able to give her this vision of what her transition could look like. And honestly, I think as a doula, we listen intently. I was listening to Cynthia Hutchinson, our program director, this past weekend, and she reminded us that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? And so as a doula, right, we have to really listen and listen even between the lines. And so through that exchange with this gal, I was able to help and guide her through her fear and anxiety, because she was 103, bedridden, 80 pounds, right? She didn't want to leave this lifetime until she found out that there was a different way to see that transition. So,
wow, that's very powerful, Melinda. the space that we hold, the space that you held for that woman, the space that you hold for the others, to see through new eyes. I think, wow, I'm really moved by the work that you're doing. Just really humbled and grateful for you stepping in, creating this support, and then teaching us. So thank you for that. You mind if I switch gears just a little bit and ask you a little bit about the legislation and, like, you know, the scaffolding, like, because end of life doulaing, I don't know, maybe I didn't say that quite right, but is fairly new. Is there legislation out there that supports you all as practitioners and professionals?
There is, Amelia. In 2015, California was the first state to support legislation for the End of Life Option Act, which is assisted suicide. Mm-hmm. Now, there are certain criteria, and I would highly recommend, if you want to get more information, you can Google that, and all of this, the legislation comes up. There are 6 other states, plus Washington, D.C., who have embraced the End of Life Option Act, which is the ability of someone to make the choice to step into that assisted suicide. And it's interesting, I have wanted to work with those people who throughout their whole lives, they have been empowered through whatever their vocation, career path has taken them on. And then at end of life, they want that same expression to be able to step in and make that choice to end their life, especially if they see end of life not being a quality of living that they are expecting or want to embrace. And it's a powerful and a lot of controversy around the End of Life Option Act. As a matter of fact, there are doctors who support the Option Act, but still are reserved in prescribing the medications required to follow through. So it's a challenge, but Colorado is one of those states. I feel very fortunate that I'm here if I'm able or need to support somebody in that transition.
Interesting. You know, it sounds like at the heart of that act, at the heart of the legislation, and at the heart of what you're doing and stepping into, there's that sense of giving somebody their power back.
Absolutely. And the doulas, I believe, as we are the voice of the dying, we are able to give and create that space for them as they take that positive or that empowering step in making that choice. I have to believe that is a very difficult choice to make, because you must be of right mind. You must self-administer, right? And so, you know, it takes a very strong and empowered and self-confident person to be able to make that choice.
That's right. And Melinda, how often do you use your healing touch skills with your doula work?
100% of the time. You know, because, you know, it is really about identifying where they are holding the congestion, right? If there's fear, right? And, you know, at the moment, I'm dealing with a lot of the seniors and the elderly, and it was a very traumatized society or group of individuals. You know, they didn't share any of the traumas that they went through, considering like the Me Too movement, right? And so they hold on to these issues. And unfortunately, you know, as we approach end of life, certainly 11th hour, there's a lot of life review that goes on. And if they look back and see where they made mistakes or where they didn't resolve issue, it is held in the energy system. It is easily and effortlessly certainly identified, and we can repattern and shift that so they can let it go, because it doesn't serve them during the transition.
Wow. That's really special work, Melinda. I think I've said that more in this interview than I've said in any of the others, but this is such special work.
It really is a calling, Amelia. You know, I hear people, I get calls all the time because I do have a website that supports end-of-life work, and I get calls all the time. Melinda, I don't know why I am being called to end of life. I hate death. I don't want anything to do with it. It really is I believe from what I'm seeing, a universal calling. It seems to me as if we are being groomed, educated, and placed in these communities so we can be that voice, we can support, we can advocate for those that are in transition. And Amelia, I remember when I first found this work, end of life or hospice work, I was in a situation where I was in the room, my first time being in a room with somebody in transition. Husband was dying, wife was right next to him. And I literally was like, my outward expression was certainly, I was meeting the expression that was going on in the room, but inside I was like, oh, this is the most exciting thing I've experienced. You know what? I just couldn't believe the excitement that I felt watching a soul transition. And so I'm hearing that time and time again, that people are being called to this work. And there are many organizations out there now that are training. I have one favorite one, if I may share.
Oh, please.
It is called INELDA, the International End-of-Life Doula Association. And what I love about them is that they follow the protocol of the hospice organization. You know, we align with healthcare as energy practitioners. And this training aligns with the hospice and the healthcare system in that respect. And so to me, they really spoke to bringing that education around the hospice organization. So I would give a shout out to INELDA. They have a very profound. And 3 years ago, when I was researching my own education, they were offering one a year. And now you will find one every single month, and they're teaching all over the country. Yeah. And so they could be in your community anytime in the future.
Well, you know, and that makes me curious, and it reminds me to kind of look back to what does it mean to be a holistic practitioner? What does it mean to be in integrative care? What does it mean to be, you know, holding space for the all, the holism? And that this is such a critical piece that you're sharing with us.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't want to just say that healing touch is the only modality, right? I think anyone who embraces the mind, body, spirit, or the awareness of shifting patterns, that could even be through, right, aromatherapy or music, right? I think all of it contributes to the support at end of life. My passion, though, through my upbringing in education and energy medicine, I am just so passionate about being able to shift energy patterns without even having knowledge of the trauma or speaking to the client, right? The energy doesn't lie. And so it is fascinating to me to be able to hold that container for a client. And through some advanced work that I've done through energy medicine specialists, I'm identifying that the hara, something that we touch on in Healing Touch program, right? I'm identifying that the hara is the transport system of our soul. And so when the hara is flowing and showing its divine light, I believe it just helps guide that person out of this lifetime with an effortless effort. So
I would absolutely agree with you. That column of light that holds our purpose, our desires, our groundedness also therefore must work the other way. And you know, the way that it oscillates between those 2 points, end points of the system, it makes perfect sense that you would extend that work and I hope that you are teaching a class sometime, because I know I'd love an invitation. I hope you drop me an email. And
I will do so. Thank you. I am stepping, as a matter of fact, my first level 4, when we write that intention for our practice 3 to 5 years later, right? I wrote that I would become an instructor for the Healing Touch program, which I fought that for a while, but I stepped into it. And now I just see my vision is that I can share and be on, I would love to bring this to any community about energy medicine and end of life. And my real passion would be to train and teach end of life doulas how to bring more tools in their toolbox using healing touch or energy medicine. It doesn't matter, whatever tool that they need to bring to support end of life.
well, Melinda, I want to thank you for this time and for your generous spirit, both in the context of this interview, but just as you said, that desire to continue to bring this work out and to help other people evolve their personal practices, their professional practice with new tools in their toolkit.
Yeah, thank you, Amelia.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure, and I will leave some information, if it's all right with you, of how to get in touch with you if people want you to come speak in their area, or just contact you with questions. Does that feel all right with you?
That would be wonderful. I would be happy to share this divine and powerful work for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Melinda.